Christ. And Gamaliel.
I'm gonna have a different answer anyway. But go ahead.
Name the two people that taught Paul.
I'm gonna tell you,
Name the two people that taught Paul.
And I ain't trying to put a distinction between me or my brothers. They believe different though. You know what I'm saying? But I don't subscribe. No, it's not confusing. It's not confusing. I'm gonna tell you. I just don't subscribe to Paul.
You know why confusion happens?
Why? Speak on.
Sin.
Okay. Check it out. I mean, it's not confusing, by the way. But I'm just say this. Y'all talk about Paul. I don't personally subscribe to Paul. You feel what I'm saying?
Why not?
I got many different reasons. We go to Galatians chapter 2. Everything y'all just talked about, it was obvious contention between even the brother Yeshua himself, James the Just, and Paul. So what I'm saying is, if we would have put our mind frame historically in that time, some people are gonna be subscribing to. Paul gave birth to a more Gnostic.
1 Corinthians 11:1.
He gave birth to a more Gnostic thinking. Paul's letters was not what Isaiah 8:20 was talking about when it said if we speak. Right. At that time.
Okay, so where does Paul contradict anything dealing with Christ?
I follow Christ. I don't follow Paul.
Okay, read that.
Christ.
1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ.
So, wait.
I just don't.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Who did Paul say he followed?
What I'm saying is...
Stop. Who did Paul say he followed?
He say he followed Christ.
Right.
Everybody was saying that, though, right or wrong.
So, how can you prove that he wasn't?
What I'm saying
how can you prove he wasn't?
Just because I don't subscribe to Paul don't mean anything. Y'all subscribe to Nathan. I subscribe to my teacher. It's just how it's divided out, but go ahead, though.
I'll just tell you this.
It ain't no contention between me.
Now, you good.
Just because I said I don't subscribe to Paul.
It's our job, each and every one of us, as the Israelites by bloodline, to return back to these laws and to measure ourselves up to the stature of Christ.
Or return back to Paul, in your words. No ad hominems, though. It just sounded very Sunday school to me, bro.
I'm just telling you what I believe.
You
can fill in however you want to fill it in.
I feel
This is my point. This is my point. As we are to return back to being Israelites, the person we want to measure ourselves up to in the fullness of stature is Christ.
Right.
And Christ was
not Paul. Can we bring it back to the Tanakh, please?
So, okay, what about Moses? What about Isaiah? If you followed these men, would you be in error?
No.
Right, because who did they serve at the end of the day?
The Eternal One.
Yeah, they follow Christ, right? They serve Christ, right?
The Eternal One.
They serve Christ, right?
They were Christ. What is Christ by definition? Let's go there.
I'm not dealing with terminology.
Word Christ. What is Christ by definition? Let's go there.
I'm not dealing with terminology.
We got to, because definition bring us to a place of discernment.
How can you prove that you fear the Lord?
By performing his mitzvot.
To what?
By performing his commandments.
Okay, so you do that?
For sure.
And what about you? You agree with? You agree with that?
1 Corinthians 11 was not his commandment. We can go there though.
You agree with that?
Absolutely. Gotta keep the commandments.
So now watch this. As we strive to keep his commandments, I wanted to bring that out there. As we strive to keep his commandments, this is how we start to understand a level of fear. You know what I'm saying? So by example, are both y'all married?
Absolutely, yes sir.
Y'all married? How many wives y'all have? One?
One.
Y'all believe you can have two?
Yeah, it's not lawful, but it's not fruitful either.
Yeah, I was taught in the school of thought that, but it's just like the same way how this man prefer to eat meat. Where my school of thought go back to Genesis 1:29 from
between the Father and us, right?
Correct.
So he's not teaching anything against Torah, correct?
Who was he?
Yeshua, Jesus.
Correct.
Not teaching nothing against Torah.
Yeah, he just brought more of an understanding to the Torah.
And I agree, according to divorce and other things. But however, he never had a disagreement with head covers. In the ancient Near East, it makes sense for a man to wear a head covering or a tool.
So who taught Paul again?
Jesus, but that's not what you're about to bring out in 1 Corinthians 11. That context is not what it's truly talking about. Because in verse 16,
yeah, read that.
Verse 16, it says that if we have any such contention in the church.
We was going to read this earlier. We didn't read this. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Read it.
1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 37. If any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord.
So Paul was very simplistic in what he brought forth.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem, Racha HaQuadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you, brethren, you fellow believers of this faith, and shalom to the elect. Anyway, this video is kind of jumping around. I did it earlier, but I had to go back and redo it. It's just a lot. But I'll just try to jump to the points and to the topic. The one brother on the left who said the name or something like that, we need to go into the name, and then you heard IUIC just jump from it. Let's go to Joel 3 real quick before I continue the commentary and go into what they've been saying. Joel 3 and 2 and 32. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. That name, that's Yahushua right there. Right? Delivered. Right? The deliverer. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord have said, and the remnant whom the Lord shall call. That's what we speak at Great Millstone, the remnant. But I want to focus on here, to call on the name of the Lord. Right? I want to focus on that for a second, because when that word name only connects you to what you're talking about. For instance, if I say, what's the name of your car, and your car says a Toyota Corolla or Avalon, well, you got to get the name of the car. But if I say your car has a nickname, right, or what do you call your name, and you might say she's fast, she's sweet, or whatever, or even a boxer, his name is the Power Puncher, his name is Swift and Move, right? But then you have that word name that connects you right here when it says, he who call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Right? I did lessons on that. Right here, it says in Isaiah 9 and 6, this is scripture they quote, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government, right, shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince, Peace, right? But you don't see any of this capitalized, right? That's why this is just titles, and they try to say this is not titles. That's why it says that'd be confusion for the Lord to have that many, biblical names, as far as who to call them. That's confusion, right? So his name should be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God. But when you go to Joel 2 and 32, right, it says, whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord, and that's in all caps, all capital letters, man. It emphasizing strength and power. The name of the Lord. It ain't Isaiah 9 and 6. His name should be called this. Name should be called that. Of course, his name is all those titles. We could say his name is the universe. You could say that. But when it says the name of the Lord, you have to call on the name of the Lord. But anyway, that was another video. I just wanted to touch on that. I also want to go into the fact that these brothers, they went into Paul, and the one wife, I don't know, they're jumping around, but it seems that both of these groups aren't really following Paul. Now we know, I don't know if that guy follows Divine Prospect, but let's go to 1 Corinthians 11. It's crazy how none of these groups believe in Paul, only some of the things. Oh, when it comes to let your woman keep silence in the churches, she is not permitted to teach. And I know it says, because also saith the law, set a man over the congregation, but she's not permitted to teach. She's supposed to dress in modest apparel and everything else, but they don't accept it all. Okay. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 3. This is something I heard with the women who the simp teachers have promoted women teaching with their heads uncovered and claiming their hair is given for a covering. They don't even understand what that's talking about. But anyway, we're going to read that. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 4. Every man praying or prophesying and having his head covered dishonor his head. These guys said, which the ones on the left, the bigger Jake in all black, he kind of believes in the letters of Paul, except when it comes to the covering of the head. You see what they do? They all make an excuse. A sinful man will find an excuse to it as well. Now, the other Divine Prospect follower, I'm not sure if he follows him, but they all kind of got that same look, same spirit. They don't believe in Paul, right? But certain things that's in there, they'll figure it out. But he doesn't believe in it. So he doesn't believe in Paul, but the other two do. But they all kind of came together. But as IUIC said, I agree with that. That's pure confusion. To me, the whole video is confusion. You know, anytime you're rolling with Christ. But anyway, every man praying and prophesying having his head covered, dishonor of his head. How do you get around that? But every woman that prayeth or prophesying with her head uncovered, dishonor for her head. So how do you get around that? So is this talking about, okay, take off the weave, or take if she don't have a weave on, or if she doesn't have her head balded or whatever? Remember, the scripture said the daughter of Zion shall be balded anyway. Our women balded anyway, the majority of them. So they don't really have a hair for a covering, unless you want to count it as a weave. But anyway, let's go to verse 15. Is it verse 15? 1 Corinthians 11 to 15. Let's go to 11 and 5. Well, let me go to 11 and 15. And this is, I'm going to read the scripture that they read. But if a woman having long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given to her for a covering. But up here it says, right, a woman that praying or prophesying with her head uncovered, dishonor for her head. So if you're a woman praying or prophesying with your head uncovered, all it's saying is dishonoring your head, right? But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given for a covering. That doesn't mean you prophesied with your head uncovered. I mean, praying with your head uncovered. This is clearly saying that. And what he was going into, because you had the daughters of Zion, right? You had us following those different customs. So you wasn't supposed to shave your damn hair as a woman. And in the same verse, he said, does not nature teach you that if a man have long hair, it's a shame unto him? And all these guys got long hair. At least the IUIC, they have long hair. So we go up here, 11 and 5. But if it says, but a woman who dishonor her head, this is the NLT. But a woman dishonor her head if she prays or prophesies without a covering on her head. This is what it says after. For this is the same as shaving her head. So clearly she had to have hair on her head. And if she prophesied without the covering, it's the same as her having no hair on her head. That's what it's saying. So clearly in this verse, a woman who even has hair on her head, if she prays or prophesies without her head covered, it's a shame unto her. So the reason why the scripture, 1 Corinthians 11 and 15 says that has nothing to do with her praying and prophesying. All it's saying is the glory is her hair is given to her for beauty. That's all it's saying. Moving on. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 7. 1 Corinthians 7. I think it's 11. Remember, this is the teachings on marriage. Right? This is the teachings on marriage. Now, this is tricky. Right? Well, what would happen to the churches if Paul didn't come in and straighten this out? Now, this group said you can have, what about one wife? Basically asking them, can you have more than one wife? This group teaches, I think they made up their own commandment, the IUIC, that a man only supposed to have one wife, because in captivity, a man could only have one wife. I never read that anywhere. In fact, in the time of Exodus in Egypt, I think when Joseph died, when the Egyptians of it was his King Ramses or Pharaoh Ramses II, I believe that was his name. when he put hell on us and we multiplied while we're in captivity? How do we multiply exceedingly with one wife? I don't know. Somebody had to explain that to me as well. So anyway, this is called the marriage, right? This is 1 Corinthians 7:10. It says, and unto the married I command, yet not I. Well, let me go up. Yeah, I command, yet not I, but the Lord, going into the law. Let not the wife depart from her husband, but and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled meaning brought back. This proves in Ephesians 2:16 the reconciliation can only be for Israelites, because you would have to be part of the covenant in order to be reconciled once you lost your way. Anyway, that's another video. To reconcile to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. Right, because they were getting rid of the women, and they would divorce them, unmarried, for pesky reasons, and getting rid of them. They didn't want to. It was all kind of madness going on in the church. We've seen a lot of this in some of these schools in Old One West. But it says, but to the rest speak I, not the Lord. I read a little commentary on that. But the rest I speak I, not the Lord. If any brother have a wife that believeth not. And this is why they was mad, right? Because really, according to the law, you would have a believing husband and a believing wife. But because of our expulsion, so to speak, and being separated and Hellenized, right, by, what's his name, Antiochus Epiphanes IV, I believe, then you see what happened. So what would happen if Paul said, okay, all the believing husbands and all the believing wives, get rid of your partners if they're unbelieving. But you know who does this? The IUIC. Yep. This is why I'm doing this video, because the IUIC say they don't really teach. They believe in Paul. They believe in the letters of Paul, but they tell you after 6 months, or a year, if the husband or wife don't agree, you got to get rid of them. This is what they teach, but listen to what Paul says. It says, if any brother have a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which has an husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Going back to the law, going back to us as Israelites, you're still one flesh at the end of the day. It's because you're one flesh. And this is the hopes that the Spirit of the Lord will bring you together in the Spirit. You're already together physically, right? But if you just unbelieving, they unbelieving, because guess what? The salvation is going to come through the husband. And if you're a woman, you pray, cover your head, by the way, and you pray to the Lord that your husband gets it. Okay? That's all. Anyway, but if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage. Let's go into something else. In such cases, but God has called us to peace. Okay? But, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband, or how knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? Okay? So, that's why, there's going to be some sincere sisters in the end, in the last days, who, you got to remember, the Spirit of the Lord is who wakes up everybody. None of us do. Right? So you can have a husband, and the Lord could put the Spirit on her if you are like the elect lady, right? Or the woman, and the Lord is dealing with you on some level, the Spirit will be on your husband eventually, likely. At the end of the day, it's the Lord's show. That's all I'm saying. These guys are teaching so-called the law, but they have long hair. There's nothing in the law that says you're only supposed to have one wife. The reason why he said that with the bishops is to bring order in the churches. That was the whole point. The leader of the churches. It's not forbidden for a man to have more than one wife, but according to those churches, it was so much adultery going on, it was out of control. And those men that was in those churches, if those men had 4 or 5 wives, Paul wouldn't have went in there and told them to put them away. That's why he said a bishop. But he wouldn't have told those other men, look, you can only have 3 wives. So in other words, if this was Bishop Nathaniel and you came into his school with 4 wives, you know what he'll tell you? You got to get rid of 3. We'll divvy them on out to the other brothers in the sanctuary. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Shalom.